Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you all staying so long for the last presentation of the AI User Conference, and specifically Days for Marketers today. For those that coined the phrase, save the best for last, they didn't know what to expect me, but I'm going to try to make this a little bit more of an informative discussion instead of something that's just a complete overview of our product. In fact, there'll be no demo of our platform today. But really, what I wanted to focus on is talking about how to approach AI from a marketer's perspective in a more philosophical, abstract fashion. And the reason I wanted to do this is, one, I think it'd be interesting to explore from the big picture why people are compelled to want to buy and invest AI. And two, I'm still trying to justify my philosophy undergrad to my parents, and hopefully this will help with that a little bit. But to start off, we're obviously AI. I'm the head of growth. My name is Kai. And we're going to start off talking with why try building AI right now? But first, let's kind of define a few things. The predictive models that we see in AI typically fall into three categories. One is classification. Essentially, I have a set of inputs, and I have a category of outputs. Given new inputs, which of these categories is it going to fall into? Regression models, which is essentially I have a series of inputs and one output I have a goal towards. What is the percentage of these inputs are going to be resulting in that said output? Time series, essentially I have a series of inputs over a specific length of time, a few hours, a few days, a few months, doesn't matter. And I want to be able to understand how I can predict in the future what those outcomes might look like in that world. And finally, something we're all probably a little more familiar with, large language models, LLMs. I don't think it needs to be too much said here. But ultimately, why try building AI right now? I think in general, when you're approaching AI as a marketer, the real main question you should be answering is the main KPI. It's not necessarily, how do I increase my leads? It's not necessarily, how do I figure out how to get more people engaged in my product? To me, the main KPI we should really be focusing on is, how does this actually increase attributable ARR for marketing activities? And I think this is especially important in 2024, where one, it's only June 25th, June 29th right now. But since the beginning of the year, there's already been 15,000 people in tech that have been laid off. This is not 2019, this is not 2021. Resources and growth are scarce, but the expectation of growth is still there. So you really need to be able to go back to your finance team, to your CEO, and explain, as cool as interesting in these new AI initiatives or tools might be, how does this investment help to increase attributable ARR? And I think the reason why now to do so, specifically with predictive models, is exactly related to that, being that the insights you can see from predictive models and LLMs can help to understand how you can improve your downstream activities and making sure they're actually on track with the main KPI at hand. So what do those insights exactly look like that you can gain? So here's just a few examples of how you can use AI to get you better insights for improving your attributable ARR overall. Example one, you're a marketer at a B2B SaaS platform. You have data on the different channels that your customers converted inbound, whether they signed up for a webinar, they responded to an email campaign, they clicked a link, an ad on LinkedIn, and you have the final stages that they ended up in your CRM, whether they stayed as an MQL, whether they moved forward to be demo, whether they moved to a free trial, or whether they closed lost or closed won ultimately. So knowing these set of inputs and knowing the outputs you want to identify, how would you understand which profiles to target so you can repeat the ideal customer close one journey? And one way you could potentially do this is with predictive models, where you can build a classification model that says, here exactly are all the historical inbound demo requests or inbound MQLs that I've had. Here are the various stages they've ended up in. Here's the activity in the middle, whether they responded to a sales call, whether they responded to a sales email, whether they've actually attended a demo, how much time they might have spent on the platform. And ultimately, as your new MQLs are coming in, you can build a model, instantly classify where in these stages in the CRM might this MQL end up. So you can really easily begin to understand from the get-go, is this something that I should invest more resources in? What's the kind of profile of people that are going to get me to that highest ratio of closed won journeys? And ultimately, how should I be formulating how I'm approaching other marketing activities to make sure I'm capturing that pool that has the highest conversion rate? A second example of this is you're a marketer at a B2C subscription business. You again have data on the customer engagement activity, but you've noticed that some of them, maybe they started strong, and the activity has gone down, down, down. You want to be able to figure out who you want to reach out to be able to promote that more engagement. But at the same time, resources are limited. You can't necessarily always reach out to everybody with a free ad. You can't necessarily always reach out to everybody with more support calls. So how are you going to understand where you're going to get the highest probability of conversion? Well, in this case, you can build a regression model. You say, here are the inputs that I have, and here's ultimately the status that I want to get, which is a not churn status. What is the likelihood, given this customer activity, that somebody is going to be churning? And so then you can therefore use your own best judgment and say, if we have people that are in this model that have rated above a 70%, that is the people that we want to be targeting our activities and resources the most because they have the highest conversion rate. And that just makes it easier for you to see some of the insights on essentially what are the profiles or data you're missing that you not necessarily get with the analytics review alone, but going in to build some predictive models and AI can help you to generate more insights and understanding with. So what does learning this mean for you though? This is something that we've seen how it can benefit your team in getting more attributable ARR. But what does this actually mean for you as an individual, as a marketer? Well, in my opinion, it's doubling the danger. Marketers at this point, if you're attending here especially, you need to be data proficient and you need to have an understanding of analytics. So why not take that next step in understanding how to also build an AI strategy on top of that too? Because the distinction I want to make clear is there's a difference between knowing you have a need for AI and actually knowing how to use AI to get to your goals. And it's essential for any marketer, especially for any of the roles that I've seen, that wants to eventually go into a marketing leadership role, is to understand how to use AI to build out that strategy, and not necessarily just, I'm going to buy Marketo as my AI strategy. The second reason I see how it can benefit you as an individual marketer is it helps your ability to tell better stories. Analytics give you the resources to tell the story of what the data is saying right now. But AI can actually help you to give a story of what the future will look like because you're using predictive models. So ultimately, you want to be able to sell your goals more successfully because especially, again, in this day and age, you're going to need to justify why you deserve these resources and what you're going to be utilizing these resources for. And that story is going to be the main thing that makes people understand what the benefit of this is. And to kind of add on that, a small quote from a perhaps unknown entrepreneur, Steve Jobs. The most powerful person in the world is a storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation that is to come. And I really believe that is exactly where budding marketing leaders are going to be in setting that AI initiative as part of their own professional development. So if you're interested now in kind of understanding how you can build some predictive models, and potentially from a no-code perspective, because who wants to go and take 2 years aside to go learn data science, Python, et cetera? How are some of the ways you can actually build no-code models? Well, one easy out-of-the-box ways is tools. There's tools like DataRobot, for example, offer very robust ways to build AI models. But some of the issues with these tools is, one, they require a long learning curve to set up and integrate within your own platform. So something like DataRobot, for example, while it's very, very comprehensive in its capabilities, it also almost requires you to be half a data scientist to be able to effectively utilize it as well. The other thing is that you can also go for an easier tool, but in general, you're sacrificing technical capability for that ease of use at the same time. It's just limiting what you can actually do with AI overall. And finally, it risks becoming shelfware. The last thing you want is to buy a tool that you had ideal ops aspirations for, and you ultimately either can't get your team to get converted on it, or they don't really understand how to find the most value out of it. Now, the second way to build no-code models, or to build models without coding yourself, is of course hiring a technical partner. But I think they're all here for a reason, understanding the hurdles with that. It takes a lot of time to just recruit, hire, and ramp up a technical team, let alone build the models after that. Just think about how long it takes to hire somebody for your marketing roles, how familiar you are with the roles and needs for the duties and needs for that person, and adding a distinction of abstraction on top of it. You got to be able to find out how to translate across your business needs to this technical person. On top of that, we all know it's very, very, very expensive to bring on a data scientist. Just one individual can start off at $200,000 alone a year, but if you're actually trying to get a team to build some robust use cases, that's got to probably be around $1 million on average a year. And then finally, the irony of it is, again, that an investment of that size, of that caliber, oftentimes requires a business use case just to justify it to begin with. But in here, it's almost a cart before the horse situation, because you need to have a data science use case to justify your investment in a data science team. But how are you going to do that without having a data science team to help you build out the use case to begin with? So this is where obviously I think we can come in and help out a little bit, and how you can actually build models easily with our platform. What we offer is what we're calling data science as a service. It's essentially blending the best of both worlds with tools and a technical person. So what we have is we have our own internal staff of data science teams. They're at least a PhD or a master's level in their background, and they have at least 3 years of experience in companies like Oracle, Honeywell, Morgan Stanley, and other technical organizations. And we pair their skill sets with the Obvious AI platform. It's our own no-code AI platform we built that anybody really can use with some basic analytical skills. But we found that combining both of them makes it so that the data scientists, instead of coding these models from scratch, they're able to use the Obvious AI platform when it's most optimal. And because they have the technical background, understand how to find that most success, that means instead of having to build a model from scratch in a few months and testing to figure out if it's actually an accuracy level, we typically have those first production-ready models built in just 2 weeks. And so what you might receive as a customer of Obvious AI is one, hands-on support with every step of building out your predictive models or your LLMs. In fact, we'll be able to help you with every step of the process. Data prep and cleaning, our data scientists are going to make sure your data is in the most hygienic form, and that any data that might be missing or abstracted is going to be there so you can build the model successfully. Model training, we're going to actually make sure the models are trained to an accuracy level that makes sense for your business purposes first on the no-code platform, so that by the time you're using it for predictions, you're going to get some valuable insights versus perhaps just something hallucinating. And finally, model deployment. A model is only useful when it's in an area that you find useful. So we're not going to ask you to go to the Obvious AI platform every time just to be able to use a prediction. Whether we want to call it with our API, whether you want to use Zapier to set it up so you can have, for example, a churn reduction use case where every time that we help you to predict there's a potential churn in a customer, you receive a Slack message, you can get an email. We're going to get the predictions to you in a way that's most insightful to you, literally, and then within your own workflow. And then finally, you're going to get access in general to the capabilities of an entire data science team, starting at just $1,000 a month. And this comes on top of no annual commitment. So, revisiting the question, why build now? Well, one is just the speed to utility with Obvious AI. Our team, like I said, we take 2 weeks to get you a production-ready model, and you can immediately start to make predictions as soon as that model is ready to see how it works out for your use case and your workflow. Our cost effectiveness means that you get all the benefits of the technical partner, but at a little fraction of the cost. And it's a low impact method of assessing how AI ready you and your team are overall, because that might be the most crucial step, is understanding you have the intent, you have the interest, but do you have the readiness in terms of your infrastructure, in terms of your data readiness? All those are areas that might be a huge hurdle when it comes to actually implementing AI, even if you're ready from a strategic standpoint. The bottom line is why build now, is that obviously we build our commitments from our value, meaning that, like I said, our plans start at that $1,000 a month, and there's no annual commitment. So it's a really good way to test out from a get-go how AI ready you are, how these models might work with the ideas you have for your use case. And ultimately, is this something that makes sense? And if it doesn't, well, you gave it a shot, but you're not contractually obligated to continue in any way. We're always happy to revisit the conversations once we have that first discussion with you, once we build out that first model, and once we help you to assess, essentially, is this something you're ready on a journey for? But because of the insights you can yield, and because of the fact that you're already here and have some analytics background, it never hurts to at least get that understanding of how you can get to that next step in your data journey and incorporating AI, and hopefully you can do that with Obvious AI. So thank you very much. I'll be over there for any questions if anyone has any. Appreciate your time.